He wasn't moving. I should have told Kathy to drive it up. Too hard getting him in and out of that.
Yeah, he's a big tall guy to get in and out of that thing.
So Tuesday, he was supposed to have a furnace guy come, and he didn't make it, and he said, well, I'll be there after dark. Well, Gordy and I believe after dark. And he said, well, we'll just leave the place unlocked. And I says, well, we could just have Kathy, call Kathy, tell her to bring her pajamas and we'll have a sleepover. He says, oh yeah. Kathy says, oh yeah, I would have done that.
Okay. Is that in the township or in the next township?
It's on the township line, but in the other township.
Just an actual meeting.
Yeah, right here.
There's a
Including 54%.
He's from a.
They don't really enforce it correctly, so I'm saying.
Oh, that should be in parentheses. The 54 goes with.
Online and.
It does.
But then you do 26% for what?
Let me see here.
Well, we'll discuss that as we get going. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's take a moment to thank everybody for coming tonight. Got one more coming in, so we'll hold up a second.
Oh, you get one.
All right, we'll start with roll call, which is not on the agenda for some reason. Mr. Robertson?
Here.
Mrs. Hopkins?
Here.
Mr. Jansma? And Mr. Ferris and Mr. Rosema are not here, so we have 3 out of 5. We do have a quorum established. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Robertson, supported by Hopkins. Just approve the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Passes 3-0. If you took a moment to look over the agenda, or the minutes from the public hearing and special meeting that we had in the beginning of September, I didn't see anything out of line. Watched it against the video. Everything appears to be well in order, so I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the September 7th special meeting and public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Deja vu here. Motion by Robertson, supported by Hopkins, to approve the minutes of the September 7th meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. 3-0. Did anybody receive any correspondence since our last meeting?
No.
Okay. Apart from the memo that was provided by McKenna for this evening's meeting, I have nothing else. So moving on, I don't believe we have anything to discuss under old business. Everything seems to be buttoned up for the moment. So we'll move on to new business, under which is master plan discussion. And I'll invite Jeff up to the table to walk us through what he's got for us.
Thank you. I'm Jeff from McKenna. I think I've met most of you guys, but glad to be back with you tonight. And yeah, I just wanted to take a minute to go over the survey results and then talk about some of the public engagement and then get into a little bit of pre-goal setting kind of discussion. So yeah, McKenna completed a survey. It was closed late last week. There were a total of 171 respondents to the survey, but most, by the end of the survey, we were getting around 105 responses to the questions. So still pretty good response rate. And as Steve pointed out, that's really close to 10% of the township population. So really good response rate. That has a lot to do with you guys. So good job. Demographics, the largest group of respondents, so 39%, was the 45 to 64-year-old group. followed by 65 years and older, 36%, and then 30 to 44 years old, 22%. Mostly the kind of middle age to pre-retirement age, that was the biggest group. Whether or not people were, how long people had lived in the township was the next question. 11 years or more was the largest group, 59% of respondents. And then followed by 6 to 10 years, 15% of respondents. 3 to 5 years and 2 years or less were 11% and 7%. So I say in the memo, but that indicates that the township is both a group of individuals who have been here a long time and are part of the fabric of the community, and new people are coming into the community, which is breathing new life into the community as well, which both of those things are important to have in your community. I kind of made up a approximate middle of the township, asked people where they lived in the township in regard to that location. That was Yonker Road and 186, which isn't exactly the middle, but close-ish. And does anybody have any guesses where the largest group comes from? Anybody out there who doesn't have the memo? Southeast, northeast, northwest, or southwest?
I'm gonna say northeast.
Population-wise. Southeast. 49% were from the southeast corner or around this area, yeah. The 3 remaining corners of the township received about 15% of respondents, or around 25 people. Getting into the good stuff. Would you be in support of Newfield Township encouraging economic development? That was the first non-demographic question, and 75% of respondents said yes. Another 17% said unsure, which tells us some of those people could easily be swayed to the yes, and some are going to be swayed to no. But roughly 80% of people are supportive of the township encouraging economic development. And I was just asking before we got started. I did a little trip around. Did a little driving around tonight, but there's like the Taylor Bridge store, which I don't think is in the township, correct?
Correct.
But, as we're thinking about this process, are there places in the township that make sense to have that kind of commercial? I'm guessing that people, go there to pick up milk or, basic supplies and things like that, rather than having to drive, all the way to Fremont or all the way to Muskegon or something like that. So 80%, let's call it, are in support of the township encouraging economic development. So if we wanted, people were asked if they wanted to, the township to identify growth areas. So areas in the township that would be open to commercial development. Right now, maybe they're not, but it might be at an intersection, it might be the corners. And you'll zone those commercial and allow for that corner retail kind of stuff there. Or something like that. But yeah, 72% of respondents said that they would be in support of the township identifying growth areas for commercial development. No and unsure, we're about 14%. And there's a little graph showing that on the memo, that question. So then participants were asked about agritourism in the township, so things like allowing farm markets, farm stands, wineries, cider mills, event barns, that kind of stuff. Allowing those things, but also thinking about them as economic development, economic growth for the township. 57% of respondents to that question said to allow those things with minimal regulation. The second most popular answer to that question was, yes, allow them to place some restrictions and rules on agritourism businesses. So, yeah, people are generally supportive. Even 30%, 37% who are saying place some restrictions on it, they're still supportive of that. So, similar trend can be seen for the next question. Wedding barns, event halls, the largest answer was 50% of people want to allow them to operate but place restrictions. Others felt allow with minimal regulation, 40%, and then 15% said the township should restrict these venues to certain roads or locations. So that is commercial development. Any questions, any thoughts?
It's about what I was figuring it would end up based on, where we live. And then you've got, with Heritage Farm Market on the way into town, you've got Lewis's, thank you. I mean, they're around.
Yeah.
People go many miles to them.
Yep.
So have one in your own backyard.
It's, the difficult thing is that you don't have one of the reasons that if you go on the west side of the county, you have, like you said, you have Lewis's right here on M20 by 31 interchange. You have Country Dairy on Oceana Drive, in between New Era and Shelby. You have Renhacks on Polk Road.
Yep.
All farm markets, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
But those are all located next to the producers of those products.
Yeah.
We don't have that necessarily here at production level. Most of the crops grown in the township, I'd say probably 90% or better, are row crops. It's corn and soybean.
Yeah.
So you don't have you don't have the captive market. In other words, it's not selling your own produce.
Makes sense, yeah.
So having to purchase produce and then reselling it, it's probably not the most viable thing.
Lost effort, yeah, agreed. Okay. Thank you, that's really good insight. It's not as if there's cherry growers and apple growers and are blueberries, yeah?
No.
Not here. Toward Muskegon.
Okay. Okay, that's good insight, Steve. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. So housing, just a couple of questions about housing. Ask how the township should plan for housing growth. The largest response was encourage affordable homes for first-time buyers, 64%. Think about that. That's wow. Followed by encouraging new housing development in specific areas, 55%. Then people were asked to consider housing types such as ADUs or accessory dwelling units. Does everybody know what those are? Really quickly, if you have a main home and then you want to have, build a small she shed type, or let's call it a tiny home for your older relative or your younger relative to live in on the property, that is called an accessory dwelling unit, or ADU. That's one type. You can also have, in-law apartment above the garage, in-law apartment in the basement. There are several different types of ADUs, but it is one way to allow for people to have density and also allow for older population to continue to age here and not have to, leave to do that. But responses to that question were mixed. Allow ADUs with minimal regulations or rules, 53%. And then the township should develop regulations to allow these only to be constructed if certain criteria are met. And again, that might be, yes, you can have them, but only if they're contained within the home, like in the basement or above the garage that's attached. That would be certain criteria. And then other choices got earned small responses to that question. So it's just a way to kind of think outside the box about housing, and especially for older adults, as they're trying to locate housing as they age. Infrastructure and utilities. We first ask about cell phone reception. So we ask people in the area where you live, how is your cell phone reception? Does it meet your needs? And answers to this question were split. 37% said yes, my cell phone reception meets my needs. 32% said that reception is spotty. And 32% said no, cell phone reception does not meet their needs. Then respondents were asked about water and sewer infrastructure in the township and what the township's role should be in that. The largest response was, anybody have any ideas? 45% said, let individual homeowners decide about their water and sewer needs. And then 37% said the township should build water and sewer infrastructure in areas where density requires it. So probably more likely the southeast side, maybe the lake areas, that kind of thing. And then 20% said the township should take a proactive role in encouraging the build out of water and sewer. So let the homeowner take care of it, 45%. 37% township should do it where it makes sense, and 20% should do it everywhere. All right, then we ask about utility scale solar energy projects. So we ask people how they would feel about these being targeted for the township. Answers are split. The largest response was target natural features such as lakes and wetlands for protection against utility scale solar projects. So allow them, but don't put them anywhere where it could possibly jeopardize the natural beauty of the lakes, the wetlands, and the forest. 26% said allow landowners broad freedom to construct utility scale solar projects. So almost as many people as said, yeah, allow them, but don't put them in the delicate areas. Almost that many people said, allow them and let landowners kind of do whatever they want. And there were other responses to that were smaller. Then we asked about short-term rentals and whether or not those should be allowed in the township, and the role the township should play in regulating them. 53% said allow all residential homeowners to offer their property as short-term rentals. 42% said allow short-term rentals only when specific design and use criteria are met. 6% said be as restrictive as possible. And then 5% said allow them, but only in specific areas of the township. We're getting there. Next we asked about parks, recreation, and natural areas. Respondents were asked if they would like to see the township prioritize and possibly fund with tax money parks and recreation. And the most popular response for what people thought should be receive tax money is children's recreational summer programming, 27%, and then linking bike trails with Hart or Fremont, 19%. Better access for launching canoes and kayaks, 14%. And more hiking and biking trails, 14%. So quite a range there. It wasn't like, you know, people had some good ideas, but they were very different. Summer programming, the cost of that versus, you know, installing bike trails to Hart or Fremont, they're very different. So, participants were asked if they felt the township should preserve natural areas, rivers, and lakes. 38%, again, allow landowners broad freedom to design their properties and rely on state regulations to protect the natural areas. The second biggest response, restrict lakefront and riverfront development to protect natural beauty and work with the natural ecosystem, and use somewhat more restrictive township regulations to prevent erosion and protect natural beauty in the ecosystem. Otherwise, allow the build out of lakefront and riverfront homes. So yeah, there's a range there. Some people are saying, you know, the township doesn't need to be involved in that at all. The state regulates all these, the lakes and rivers and forests. We don't need to do that. And then more specific instructions, more specific to lakefront and riverfront. Other people felt that was important. When asked how the township should manage publicly owned recreational areas, so 63% said enhance the areas that it already has. 48% said apply more area, add more area through applying for grants. And 29% said just maintain public areas within the township. So any thoughts about Parks and Rec?
Yeah, I'm kind of, excuse me. I mean, I expected enhance, not add. I did not expect add to have quite that much traction. It would be nice to apply a little bit of grant money to what we already have. You know, we took a ride to Oxbow.
Yeah.
And I know I could hear the wheels turning in your head, so.
Yeah, that's a beautiful area, yeah. Yep. As I was driving up here, I was thinking about a conversation I had with another rural township supervisor recently, and he was talking about how they were blessed with grant money to get parks, and they got parks, and now there's a significant amount of their budget that goes to things like mowing, you know, you know, that those are considerations. And I think that's reflected here a little bit in these answers. So people are saying the biggest answer, just enhance what is already here. I took a ride tonight on Loop Road because I wanted to go down where Steve was talking about, where the ORV area is. But I mean, what if there was a ORV staging parking lot right there that the township owned, and maybe, you know, maintained or something? That's a recreation amenity where the township is offering, you know, that space because for me, I was like, man, I'd like to use this, but where would I park? You know, like to unload. Maybe the restaurant, Hightower's, although I don't imagine they would want me, you know, hanging out there while I'm riding my ATV. But yeah, that's an example of, you know, that's federal land, and you guys don't have to, it's there for your enjoyment and your protection, but it's also there to, you know, you can potentially make money off of it as well. Any other thoughts about parks and rec or anything like that? One other thing I noticed too, the roads are amazing here, and if you guys don't get outside very much, like I do, they're amazing. I mean, every road that I drove on today was like perfect condition. But for the future, the shoulder is about that wide on Loop Road anyway. That's something that can be planned for without a ton of, I mean, it's not exactly, you know, low-hanging fruit, but it's not like as high-hanging fruit as building a bike path. The next time that gets paved, the next time it gets, you know, an upgrade, wider shoulders, so the bikes can ride on the side safely. Those are things that they're not exactly a park and recreation amenity, but that allows for park and recreation. And now you might have bicyclist groups who are taking that road because it's really beautiful right now. So that's enhancing what's already here. It's not necessarily adding a new park, although we can dream about that too.
Jeff, are there examples of other townships that have gotten into that and how it's worked out for them? In particular, I mean, the ORV thing is obviously something that's popular.
Yeah.
I think, you know, Dennis and Joan are much more knowledgeable about Silver Lake than I am. But I think even there, the kind of big trucks and stuff is diminished, and a lot more people are into quads and things like that than what it used to be.
The side-by-sides and
Side-by-sides and quads and things, and so, you know, is that something that is growing and is worthwhile? And, you know, how are townships making out on that? And what are they doing? You know, okay, so if you had a township trail, that's wonderful. But you probably have to do some sort of maintenance. You know, are they charging fees to cover the maintenance costs? And you know, how does that balance out?
Yeah, fees are tough because then you're employing someone to collect the fees. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would recommend like a township trail as much as so the 2 tracks are already there and you don't have to do anything about them, correct? A parking lot, staging area, you know, that is something that enhances what is already there. It doesn't, you know, kayak or canoe launch enhances, it doesn't, you know, create the whole sport of kayaking. It just makes it easy for people to access it, you know. And that's kind of the same thing I was thinking when I was out there. I was like, because there's some woods out there, and you know, I mean, man, that'd be neat. You could do it, and snowmobiles in the winter, I'm sure. But just thinking. I mean, just thinking for what are the possibilities. And if you put that parking lot there, people from out of town will be now riding in your township. And you know, maybe you don't want that. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know.
We have a lot of them.
I'm sure
We
you
live
do.
on a loop road and it's
traffic.
constant side by sides, almost as many as motorcycles.
And as
Not
fast
quite
as
as
they
many,
can go,
but-
I'm sure, right?
But that road gets well traveled and like motorcycles.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful out there. I hadn't been out there. Steve mentioned it a while ago, and I had extra time, so I headed out there. But it's nice, and especially right now. I mean, yeah, if you had, you know, like some wider shoulders too, you could have a nice bicycle road ride out there too. But anyway. Okay. Speaking of bike infrastructure, participants were asked about bike infrastructure, and given a list of choices, the largest response was for bike infrastructure is adequate for the township, 33%, followed by construct separate bike trails along major roads, 32%. So there it is again. You got pretty much the same amount of people saying we don't need any more bike infrastructure, and then others the same amount saying we should build separate bike trails along major roads, which is, it's a big money item. It would be fantastic, but they're, yeah. And then 27% said to construct bike lanes on shoulders of major roads. So bike trail, completely separate thing from a road, all by itself. Bike lane along the road on the shoulder, on the side. Lastly, participants were asked if they would support the township constructing a dog park or a skate park. The largest response was yes, I support adding these amenities, 60% people. Followed by no, I would not support these amenities, 26%. And 9% said they would support a dog park, but not a skate park. And 6% said they would support a skate park, but not a dog park. We gotta get the skaters and the doggers together, right? But overall, I mean, 60% of people are saying, yeah, they would support the township constructing a dog park or a skate park, so that's good. Then we did ask about ORV trails and if the township should be encouraging the development of ORV infrastructure. The largest response was 40% said ORV infrastructure is adequate for the township. Followed by 23% said the township should construct ORV infrastructure such as trails. 14% said the township should construct ORV trails along major roads. And 13% said that they should construct ORV trails on the shoulders of major roads. I think it's, is it Lake County where you can ride ORVs pretty much on any local roads?
You can here in Oceanos.
You can?
Not,
So,
not primary roads.
Not primary.
okay, not M20,
M20,
And 25 miles an hour,
okay,
and then all your tires have to be on the pavement, not two on the dirt, and you'll be on the pavement.
safer that way.
Well, you're not chewing up the
Oh, okay,
Shoulder.
okay. So, I mean, that's awesome, and it's fun, but it's also a way for people to get around if they don't have a car, or their car breaks down and they need to get to work. That's a really nice option for people to have, so good for you guys. So just to sum up, natural areas and recreation are an integral part of the township. Survey respondents have said that they see the need for infrastructure to support these activities. So they are saying things like we need a dog park, but they're also saying a lot of what we heard was, you know, things are okay the way they are, but we'd like to support them. Infrastructure items such as bike lanes, bike trails, canoe launches, parks, and recreational programming and ORV trails are all among the items that respondents mentioned wanting to see in the township. Recreational infrastructure provides the potential to further develop a recreational economy and support recreational-based commercial areas in the township. We've talked about this a few times at a couple different meetings, but you know, there is that potential there if you ever wanted to start having those kind of businesses. The infrastructure would need to come first. So before I put my bicycle rental shop in downtown Hesperia, I've gotta have a place for people to bike. And before I have my ORV rental place somewhere out in the western part of the township, gotta have that infrastructure in place to let people ride it. And easily, and with signs, and all that kind of stuff. So, people are saying that they can see that as being a potential in the township, and it's possible, for sure. End of the survey shifted to overall questions about the township. First, participants were asked if they were given $100 to spend on township services, what would they choose? There were a range of responses, but the largest response was, any guess? Police enforcement. 27% of people said they would put that money toward more police enforcement. Followed by fire and EMS. Third, better cell phone reception, that was 10% of responses. And also tied with that was parks and recreation programming for children and youth, and then other smaller answers. So 27% of the 27% of the respondents said they would put their money into more police enforcement. Police and fire, 40, if you count the two together, 40%. Next, respondents were asked what services they would prioritize, even if it means a small increase in taxes, don't gasp. Okay. Overwhelmingly, given what we just said, does anybody know what what services people would prioritize, even if it meant an increase in taxes?
Ambulance.
Police department, and then ambulance and EMS. Yep. So those were the two biggest. Lastly, Steve, I apologize. I must have been at the end here and trying to finish up, and there's a typo. I know. I will correct it, and when I send it out to you guys. But people were asked if they believe that the township should enforce the zoning ordinance. And respondents gave a range of answers, including 28% said minimally enforce the current ordinances, and 26% said proactively and aggressively pursue ordinance infractions. So again, seeing that same kind of thing. Almost the same amount of answers for two very different concepts. One group is saying don't enforce really much of anything, and the other group is saying go after people and make sure they have their trash picked up and that their cars parked in the right spot and all that. Same amount of people, 28%, 26%. So that kind of showed up a little bit throughout some of the answers. Anybody want to discuss those kind of things? The police, the fire, EMS kind of stuff.
I'm surprised for the fire, because we have a very good fire authority that takes in multiple townships, and we have, in fact, Jones just had a fire board meeting, and all the townships are represented on that.
Okay.
And we have a top-notch building, top-notch equipment. I know we hope for more people, we always are asking for more people in the fire department, but we do have first responders that are there that have kind of taken up some of the slack of the ambulance.
Okay.
Now, was in the survey, fire and EMS was one option, it wasn't, so,
ambulance and EMS, and then fire and EMS.
Yeah. So that's probably where that came from, was people wanted the EMS, but they couldn't separate the two.
Well, we have.
I've heard a lot, at our engagement workshops, it was police, ambulance, police, ambulance, police, ambulance. It was almost everyone said it. because we don't have a village police department. We have never had a township police department, and that's a slippery slope, but, and it's all the counties can do to keep deputies in uniform and on the road. I mean, both of them are aggressively hiring and recruiting at the academies. Montcalm County is actually sponsoring 3 people to the academy, that want to serve but haven't been to the academy. They are willing to sponsor them. That's $60,000 a piece.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's just like school bus drivers and teachers.
It's, the difficult part is we're to some degree, the red-headed stepchild of the county. We're just about the furthest community from Hart. And so the county commission is going to be centered on areas along the Oceana Drive corridor, particularly Shelby, Hart, and then Atwater. Those are the bigger money areas, they're the bigger population areas, and so resources are gonna be spent there much more than over on this side. I mean, that's, everyone knows here knows it's been historic. They don't wanna spend the money on our roads, they don't wanna spend the money on police patrols, and then right now, the current situation with the ambulance, our closest ambulance is Shelby. That's 16 miles away. It's a ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
For an emergency, like Nancy said, the first responders through the fire departments have picked up some of that slack, but they're rather limited into what they can do. So, I think we've been fortunate we haven't had, deaths because of that, or maybe we have, we have.
I sat on the rural health board for Hesperia for the doctor's office here for several years, and they just keep facing cuts, because they say Fremont Hospital is only 20 minutes away. Well, that's, when you're coming from up in Levitt Township coming down, and even when you get to Hesperia, that was a big thing that we went through. They were gonna pull the cot, they work cot for heart attacks. They were gonna pull that out of the office down here, and I was very adamant that they needed to leave it.
Yeah.
Because if somebody can get someone into Hesperia from Levitt Township or Beaver, coming in and get that far and that office is open, there's a chance that you can get help.
Yep.
Till the ambulance gets there, and the very fact, one of the doctors came in to see me, and said that that very situation had happened. A man came in, was having a heart attack, and they worked on him, and till the ambulance got there, the ambulance took him to Fremont and then Muskegon, and 2 weeks later, he walked back into their office and said, had you not been open and not willing to perform, I would be dead. And he was not one of the regular patients. He just knew there was a doctor's office in Hesperia. So, we are losing people, and ambulance is a big thing, and I've worked on it for years with other people to get the ambulance back here, and it all comes down to money.
Where would be the nearest urgent care?
Fremont.
And that's like 12 miles away.
And then Shelby, 16.
It's very problematic, but the same thing is true even to a large degree with policing as well. You're gonna have more sheriff deputies located on the west side than you do over here, or even going north.
I don't know what's going on, but lately there's been a lot of police presence.
Well, we've had,
a couple
I mean,
of doses.
it's helped that the village of Hesperia doesn't have a police department now.
Okay.
So they are contracting with both Oceana and Newfield counties.
Oh, okay.
So that is getting deputies from both sides here, you know, so we're probably getting the best we've ever had, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
In many ways, but it's always been, historically, I know it's been problematic to call, and, you know, the nearest guy is maybe in Elbridge or, you know, points west of there, that's, you know, there's no fast way from there to here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's, on the other hand, having a township police department is quite an expense and, all that.
Yeah. Any other questions overall about the survey, or any thoughts? Anything we should have asked that we didn't?
Just one thing, that when you brought up the septic and wells,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard that they're trying to pass where the state will go out and check everybody's wells and septics, and
Yeah.
the homeowners have to pay for it, and then they come back every so many years and check it again, you have to pay for it again. And if there's anything wrong, they can shut it down, and you have to come up with the big bucks to fix it, or you have no well or septic.
Yeah.
But they're at the same time, though, they also have that bill it's in our township focus to have, there's actually a fund to help people with their wells and septics.
Yeah, but
And
there's many people that's gonna need the help, there's not gonna be that much money in the fund.
Yeah, well, they're supposed to be, the bill is to enhance that, so that they can. I don't see how they're gonna be able to inspect everyone's well and septic when they can barely do what they're doing right now. But it's, high density areas, you know, it's problematic, like around the lakes.
Yes. Yep.
That's where it gets to be. Can't imagine, there's no way, are you gonna have what, municipal sewer and water out at 160th and Pierce, you know, or 192nd and Scout, or, you know, it's just not, there's no way, you know, you're talking about, you know, $1 million a mile.
Right.
For 2 residents.
Not today. Not today.
Not today.
Right?
You know.
All right. Next, I wanted to talk about some of the boards, and you can see multiple colored dots on there. That's because that was multiple different times. So I wanted to see different responses from different dates. But we asked people about commercial corridors, and we asked them, like, if Newfield were to do any renovations on the commercial corridors coming into town, what they would want them to look like. And you can see kind of these images, trees and pots lining. This one right here, there's nothing, there's really awesome access. You can tell that's a little bit of a limit in access. This is in Whitehall. I just thought it looked nice, I'll be honest. But there's a little bit of both here going on, and there's a little bit of residential and kind of it's up onto the road a little bit. And then down at the bottom, this was kind of, these three were like to pick a favorite style. This is called cottage retail, and it literally is a lot of times, you know, businesses that were put into things that used to be homes or cottages, and it has a really unique look. People seem to like that the best. That's in Cascade Township, southeast of Grand Rapids. And then this was the second most popular one, and this might be sort of similar to what you guys have now, although probably not as big a parking and probably not as big a storefront, but quite a few people like that. Again, these are for business owners. You have maximum visibility, and you have maximum parking, and you have maximum access. So they do work for that, but you know, they may not be the prettiest. Then there's combination, this one is a little bit of a combination of the two. So we have street trees here, but they're not, 80 years old and really dominating. We have a little bit of this kind of retail going on, but it's not pushed quite as far back, and it has a little bit more of a design element to it. People didn't like that one as well, so that was the least favorite. Any thoughts, comments, or questions about that? Okay, and then we asked people to tell us what their favorite housing style would be for new housing in the township. And most of these on the top, of course, are single-family homes. You can tell this one is kind of in like a dense neighborhood. The neighbors are right next door. There's no garage in the front. It would be on the back, and maybe a little alleyway for the garages, and sidewalk up in the front, small porch. This is what you would call traditional urban style housing, whatever that means, especially the alleyway in the back. That's definitely a marker. This was, what year is this? Anybody throw out a guess?
1970.
I was gonna say seventies too.
I was gonna say
70s or
80s.
80s.
But yeah, 1980s, somebody put that out on a rural lot, you can tell, far away from the road. No front porch whatsoever, just a door, but you can guess they probably have, that nice big deck in the back, right? Wasn't as popular as I thought it would be, but it got 6 votes. This one, let's see, I don't know, this might be called like a craftsman style house. I kind of thought that would get a few votes, it got none. This one right here is clearly not a newly built home. It is not anything extravagant. You can tell at some point somebody added on this side room. The garage is nothing special, but it has sort of an orange door. It's the most favorite. Everybody likes this one the best. And I chose this one because it's a little bit like what I see around the township, It's not this perfectly neat, tidy little home. It's a home that people have made to work over the years. That was people's most favorite. And then secondly, this would be like a traditional duplex on top and below. And that was fairly popular. So then down at the bottom, these are all different types of apartment styles. So let's say that we absolutely had to build apartments in the township, somebody was forcing us. What would you want to see here? And this one is kind of like individual townhouses. These might be like 2 to 3 bedrooms, they may even have a small basement, and they've got a little teeny garage. That was the most popular. Not surprised. This is kind of like just big apartment style. A lot of people gave some votes for that. That was second most popular. And then I would say this is my idea anyway, was like this is like a condo style apartment. So you own it, but it's just a unit inside. Wasn't all that popular. So. Anybody surprised about anything they see on the board?
I was surprised that there were stickers on the apartments.
At all?
I don't imagine people around here as being apartment people.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I mean, my stickers on the townhouses, they're on the bottom right. Because as the millennial aspiring homeowner, it would be, right now it's impossible for your average or aspiring homeowner like me, $30-something thousand a year, to even dream of getting a house that, will fit more than you, because prices are outrageous. In a development like those, you'd share the, you'd own own your spot, but share your expenses for maintenance with 4 or 5 other people. You know, I enjoy that thought.
Yeah,
And
I don't-
elderly who don't wanna take care of their yard, can't
exactly.
take care of their yard.
yep.
I was just gonna say, I think if you look at your demographic information, we skew a little bit older.
Skew.
Older
I was
folks.
gonna say, a lot of it.
Well, it's younger, it's older, we have a job
Yeah,
But
it's,
as you're aging, you are less interested in a lot of maintenance. Maybe your capabilities are diminished. I'll be real honest, you know, I'm at the point, I can't see the board, you know? So, well, we're fixing that though next week. But anyways, the point being that I'm not shocked by that at all. I'm also not shocked that the townhouse style would be more popular than a large building. It just doesn't fit in the community, even going into town in Hesperia. I did develop townhouses in Shelby, and we filled up real fast. Number one, there's a shortage, but number two is the townhouse is that bridge between single family and a large apartment, and so I think it's more acceptable, particularly as people are aging. You know, that they don't want to live in this big building, but they don't want to have the whole 9 yards of single family home ownership.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so I think most of those votes came from the second public engagement, and the crowd was maybe a little bit older. And the discussion at that time, people were saying that as they age, when they can no longer live in their house, their only choice is to move out, pretty much. And so that was where a lot of that kind of discussion came from. You know, people, just like Steve said, you know, so if you're not from here, how do you get here? Well, you buy a cottage when you're 55, and then you slowly move up here, right, and become a resident. And then what? You know, when you can no longer take care of that place that you purchased and the property, there aren't a lot of options. And then I think, I remember speaking to a couple of younger people that didn't have, you know, they were sharing the same concerns. They didn't have the means to purchase a home. An apartment would mean they could stay in the community, so. Okay, last but not least, big idea board. You wanna help me with this one?
No.
You wanna read them off?
No.
Alright. You gonna make me do it?
Yeah.
Alright, so this is always the fun one for me because, we ask people to think about their big idea, and we do mean that. We want stuff that you're not thinking of. I mean, it's great to talk about housing, but we need to sometimes think outside the box. So the big idea board pulls out the craziest of us all. But I'm just gonna kind of go through them. So we have more local jobs, more paved roads, and cell service for all. I can get behind that, right? So this person is looking at economic development and then infrastructure. That's what they're looking for. Road repair, bike trails, and restaurants. And then sustainable fixed income housing. And published water testing for township residents on an annual basis. Can someone talk about this one? Who was just talking about the water? Okay. Do you guys do water testing at the local level?
Well, no, I have gone to the health department in Hart and got kits for some residents because one of the houses that went up for sale, there was a lot of nitrates in the water, so I felt it was my duty to let the neighborhood know and give them the means to test it, and whether they did it and took it up there or not, I don't know, but
I know the village with their municipal water supply, they're required to post their information, but we don't have a municipal supply,
Yeah.
so
That would be kind of tough.
it would be, I mean, if we took a sample at our well here and just said, here's where we're at, this is what we have, and
The next door could be different.
exactly.
Well, there has recently been a concern, there's a groundwater contamination found up in Walkerville. And the aquifer goes from north to south, so there is a concern that there could be contamination heading this way at some point. They have I believe they've started monitoring wells and.
Where was it from?
Newfield Township.
Another town.
Okay. But it's not here.
As far as we know, not yet.
That's good. We need junk or a scrapyard where you can throw things in for free and take things out for free. And so, good things are cars, appliances, and scrap metals. And then, I don't know where it is, but I don't want to forget to mention it, but along with this idea, I think was having like a scrap fest, where people build, sculptures out of the junkyard. Where people build sculpture out of the scraps. But that can be, if those things get big, that can be a huge event for your community and draw in people. Okay, sorry about that. A rec center, community center. A rec center or community center. And then a public meeting room that people can rent, a banquet hall, classrooms, banquet hall with classrooms maybe, and pickleball courts. Are there any pickleball courts in the township?
Not yet.
I think there's a private one.
Is there? A private pickleball court that just goes against the whole.
Yeah, like Local was saying, he put one in
She
person.
did, up on the lake.
Yeah.
This person is saying to stop speeding on Holly between 192nd and 198th. Who's responsible for that? More job creation and housing development. That's shown up twice now, so job creation has shown up twice. Combined sewer for lake homes. Is that any kind of a thing? Is the state, do you guys worry about the state requiring you to do that at some point?
No, the concern is this. Silver Lake has had an issue with that for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And 20 years ago, they did a study and found that the lake was dying, and it's dying because of too much load on the, nitrogen, phosphorus load on the lake, because of all the dense development around it, and
Okay.
people with nice lawns fertilizing them, and septics, and blah, blah, blah. And no one did anything about it. It just happened to be at the same time, Hart expanded their wastewater treatment plant. And so they could have hooked up at that point for $8,000 a lot, and no one wanted to do that. Well, the lake has gotten worse and worse and worse, and as taxpayers, we spent $750,000 of county funds to do another study done by the U.S. Geological Survey, and they found, guess what? We have a problem with too many septics and people run off from their lawns and all that. And now that you absolutely have to deal with it, it's gonna be $20,000
Per house.
Yeah. So, of course, my feeling is, well, you deserve it because you could have done it great and you blew it off. Well, pay your piper. Particularly in McLaren Lake, we've seen an awful lot of growth.
Mm-hmm.
Where you used to have little cottages, you now have 1,800 square foot homes, where people had kind of a lawn, basically weeds that they mowed down, is now nicely manicured lawns with, you know, True Green coming and spraying fertilizer and stuff. So it's, you know, at some point, all that stuff impacts the lake.
Yeah.
That's probably the one, that lake, certainly, there still is room, close enough by where you could do something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
But it would probably be a homeowner thing, not a municipal system.
Right, which does happen. I mean, they're expensive, but, and they sometimes work if you do the self-contained systems. I know of a place near Rockford that the sewer trucks come into the neighborhood every day and pump it out. But they were supposed to build a self-contained system, and for whatever reason, it didn't really work. Read these. So better roads, better job options, community center, rec center, better jobs, showing up 3 times. And when people say better roads, they mean paving the dirt roads, right? Because I've never seen better roads anywhere.
We did 9 roads this year and I think 5 last year.
They're nice. They're in good shape. I don't know, are there places in the township where you're like, oh my gosh, that road?
Yes.
There's a few.
Yes.
Okay,
There's 3 of them that,
We have left,
you should come to Lansing. There's a few good ones. Let's see. Improved education, better options. I don't know exactly what that means. But maybe like things like trades, or something, yeah?
they have the opportunity to go to trade school when they're in high school.
Really?
Career and tech.
They're bused over there by the local school district.
I don't know that, I apologize, I don't know that this means public school system.
Right.
Natural gas lines out 192nd and offshoot roads and more predictable cell service. Again, nothing but infrastructure. They don't care about parks, they don't care about rec, they just want good infrastructure. Curb the loud trucks and motorcycles. Okay. Most culverts are on right, always. Township culverts for drainage. Wet spring areas cones out when culvert. Okay, I think they're saying that most of the storm culverts are on the right side, is that true?
The right of way, yeah.
Oh, on the right of way, okay. Thank you. Right of ways, yeah. Township culverts. So they should put, the township should put cones out when the culverts are plugged, especially during flooded times. And then, they say to clean the culverts out with long-handed shovels once a year. And that'll take care of that problem, right?
Ideally, if the county drain commission did that.
This is too simple. We need a better solution than this. I think I already read this one, combined sewer for the lake homestead, I think, right? We already talked about it anyway. This person says leave the plan alone, which I've heard that here too, several different places, which, seasonal housing, vacation rentals to house migrant workers, campers, or people who are fishing or hunting, or eventually riding on the ORV trail or the bike trail or whatever. That was another, I think, Steve, you might have mentioned that one, maybe, or somebody, but having seasonal housing or vacation rentals in more that, out where the natural areas are. Change the ordinance to only allow indoor growing of weed to reduce the smell residents must deal with. And that, we heard quite a bit. I mean, that was people were sharing that quite a bit throughout the process. And natural gas down Garfield Road. So most of the township is on propane, right? Just around the city is on natural gas, or, yeah? Well, any thoughts about this from anybody?
DTE is actively trying to garner information from, like, we got a letter here. I know they're trying to gather information on whether people want to pay for the build out.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I know at least as far as 192nd, I don't know about any further than that, but.
Okay.
They are running natural gas, I don't know if it's all done yet or not, or on Holly Street, all the way to, well, Chad and Julie Burrell's house.
I know they made it. I know they made it to 198th. I don't know if they made it any further. I know that's where they stopped.
Okay.
Last time I knew, I don't know if they made
Yeah,
it
they're
any
supposed to
further.
go 4 more houses down, but they had to do a survey and people had, a certain percent had to agree to pay the $3,000 and they could pay it up front or have little bits added to their monthly. And then we got a letter to see about bringing it up this way. Well, if they bring it up this way, then I'd like them to also go that way a little bit to get the fire authority.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. And as far as the culverts, there's not a whole lot we can do about that. I mean, we had a culvert that was just on the other side of our driveway and they took it out. And then they put down a new road, then they tried telling us there's never a culvert there. Well, I'm sorry, but we've lived there for 40 years.
I love
There was a culvert there. He's had to dig it out before. We've had a cat make a home in there before. There was a culvert there.
Yeah.
And then there was another road that the people's yard kept getting flooded, and so I went up there and I was gonna dig it out for him, and I'm just like, there's no culvert here. And yeah, there was, but it's been so many years that the one side was all filled in, so I went to the other side of the road and was trying to dig out all the mud and all that. Well, then, next thing you know, we have a big old hole in the top that if anybody drove over it, their tire would go right down in there, so then I had to have the road commission come and dig the whole road up right there and put a new culvert in. Now there's no problems. And I'll never do that again, because that was not fun.
No. When I read these, I see a lot of people asking for infrastructure. They don't necessarily want a big neighborhood or an Applebee's. They just want, to be able to kind of live the rural lifestyle, but with good cell phone reception and some natural gas and
I think a lot of the people that come here, especially the seasonal people, they would like what they have as far as conveniences
at home.
that they have at home here.
Yeah.
And it's usually more costly because less population.
Yeah.
They would like that.
And most of those people in the bigger towns have Verizon. Can't use Verizon here.
I've noticed.
So that's.
That's gotten better though. They put the tower east of town now.
Yeah, but it's only good for so many miles and
Then
then.
you go 6 miles and then
Which covers an awful lot of the township though.
Not when the trees are leafed out.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I noticed, I have AT&T, and there's 2 curves, because I live on Loop Road. There's 2 curves there, where in the full thick of the summer, you lose your cell phone signal, so your music stops. But as soon as the trees start turning color and dropping, you can make your music all the way home.
You have an issue, to some degree it's chicken and egg. No one wants to provide services because there's not enough population to make it worth their while.
There you go. Listen to
And
this.
you can't attract the population because you don't have the services.
Right.
So, which comes first? And that's always problematic. We're getting, most of the community is pretty much on high-speed internet now.
Yeah.
Because of, Great Lakes Energy and TrueStream, you know, hooking folks up. And that's been a real boom. South Point, you know, it's hilly and wooded,
Yep.
and it's just really hard to
Yep.
to get that going without a whole bunch of towers and repeaters and.
And most of your carriers, if you have a consistent high-speed internet connection, you can use your Wi-Fi to make a phone call.
Yep.
Or send a text
So-
message.
So this getting to be less problematic, you know, the sewer and water thing, that just ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. Not in this planning period, but we can talk about it, and then in the next one, maybe it will start to build out.
You know, housing, you know, again, is another one that, you know, banks don't wanna lend for development. And so, you know, where does the money come from?
Yep, you're right, it is a chicken and egg thing. Yep.
It's the same thing, you know, hopefully it's kind of sad, and I'm probably gonna get myself in all kinds of trouble, which I'm good at. Jim will attest to that. We have a nonprofit, quasi-housing commission, development corporation in the county, and they've done absolutely zero on this side of the county.
Is that right? Wow.
You know, they've done, in the last 5 years, 24, 64, 72, 88, darn close to 100 units,
But all over in Pentwater and.
all in one of that Oceana Drive corridor.
31.
Shelby, basically Shelby and Hart. Most of it actually in Hart.
So they get X amount of dollars from the government to disperse every year, and they're.
Well, you know, they're financing through grants, low-income housing tax credits, a lot of it's that, you know, for example, we had, and they were made aware, we had property for sale in the village that would be perfect for that sort of purpose, because you do have municipal sewer and water and natural gas, and they never even responded, so, I probably, like I said, I'll get in trouble, but I'm gonna open my big mouth and make some more enemies.
It's public forum. All right, well.
So we have all this, now what?
So we have all this, now what? So, next steps, are gonna be to develop a future land use map. And so you guys have one right now, you may or may not know that, but you do. And we're gonna develop a new one, based on information we got here and information we've received from all of you. And we'll take a look at that. Now, that's not gonna be me making a map and saying, here you go, guys, here's your map. I'm gonna get tons of feedback. You're gonna say, nope, we need to do this here and do that there. I really need that kind of feedback from you guys, because I know planning, but you all know Newfield Township. So I'll need that kind of feedback, and it can get down to like the parcel level, where we're looking at like, you know, this property and that property, and deciding where we're going to, areas that we're gonna preserve and not allow development, and areas where we're gonna allow that kind of supplemental development. So maybe we're not building new houses, but we might look at sidewalks or something like that. And then looking at areas that we want to grow, and that will have try to grow out. That's the next step, the future land use map, and then goals. But I want to kind of work through goals with you all at a next meeting. And I think you have November and then nothing in December, right?
Correct. that November, we set our schedule for 2024.
Okay. And you'll need that time to set that schedule.
Mhm.
So we may not be meeting unless we do a special meeting in December or something.
We could, I mean, it won't take the whole meeting to put a schedule together. It'd be the second Thursday, just gotta choose which month it's in.
And we can do the future land use map, we'll present it to the public, but we can do all that boring, parcel level stuff, we could just do behind the scenes. You can invite people, you can invite the public, an individual or two if you want, but it gets pretty tedious.
Yeah.
So to have it at this meeting is kind of.
Yeah, what I was gonna say, is there a way to do this by email?
Or Zoom.
Where you can get feedback from individual members and then kind of aggregate that.
Yep.
Information and then use that information to come up with a proposed map that then both the public and the planning commission can make comment on.
That's pretty much where we're at right now, is making that map. Yep. I don't have one. We don't have one in the process yet, but yeah, that's
what are you
where.
waiting for?
I've just been taking it easy, so, but yeah, so the future land use map, and then I wanna talk quickly about goals. So I wanna try something for goals, because when we do goals, we need what? Objectives, right. So I wanna try something with the goals where we do maybe even like this is an engagement activity. And we get, let's say, the two of you, and Michael, you would be all the way down at the end, and we would be coming up with like this dream idea. So an ORV staging area, we put it all the way down there, okay? That's a master plan goal, and we'll say it better than that. And then, I forget your name. Mary. So you would be in the next zone, and you would say, research properties in the ORV trail area. And then we might even have another stage where it's like, reach out to the state and ask them questions about, So then we have our goal, develop new ORV areas, infrastructure, and then we'll have our objectives underneath it, how we get there. But as we're between now and the next time we meet, let's try to be thinking about some goals that you're already hearing. If you think about them while you're driving or something, jot them down. You can email them to me or email them to Michael or Steve. But that's the goals are those high level things, and then we get the objectives to get us there. So that's all I have. I told you I could talk all night.
Yeah.
Jeez. You can blame my mom for that.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's a lot to go through, a lot of numbers, a lot of graph. But
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where we go from here.
Yeah.
It's a good start. Thank you very much.
And I'm gonna make a couple of revisions I'm gonna summarize the boards on the memo, and I'll make a couple of changes that were missing. Yeah.
Okay.
And then,
No problem.
and resend it to you guys.
We can't expect perfection. So,
Well.
all right, I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Zoning administrators updates. Steve, what do you have for us this month?
Okay.
Thank you, Steve, for your zoning administrators update. No.
It's good with me, okay. Moving
No,
right
what do you have?
Yeah, pick a card, pick a card. I kind of thought that we were going to have a major slowdown in permits and folks investing into the township. That ain't happening.
No.
Right now in my mailbox, I have 4 more permits for this month, so, yeah, obviously increased interest rates isn't, killing things off. And quite a few are new houses, so it's a good thing, and
It is.
I'm still getting a lot of phone calls, and when I do, the thing to note on that, when it says inquiries, there's people from outside the township that are calling and saying, hey, I'm from Flint, I'm thinking about moving up here, I saw this parcel for sale, what can you tell me about it? You know, what are your setbacks, what can I put up there, blah, blah, blah. So that doesn't include the people who are calling who are saying, well, I want to replace my deck, or I want to have a mud room
Why are you looking at me?
because those little brats are tracking everything into the house, you know. So yeah, that's just folks who are interested in the township.
That's a lot.
And I'll leave it at that,
Okay.
because I got the look for it.
Must have been tonight.
All right, thank you, Steve, very much. Moving on to commissioners' discussion, apart from all the numbers that were thrown at us, do we have anything we need to discuss? Do we want to talk more about numbers? Or do we want to move on? I can see Rick's begging me to move on. I mean, once we have the full memo, at our meeting next month, we'll be able to go, we'll be able to go in depth with that, and have a further discussion. Other than that, I don't think we have anything else to really discuss this month. Next month, we'll have to discuss our calendar for 2024. So if you know of times when the second Thursday rolls around, you know you're not gonna be around, let me know. And I'll be sure to have a list so we can, I think, based on the process and the fact we've had so many special meetings and other things for the master plan process, I think we should meet more than 6 or 8 times. I think we should meet probably 10 times next year. That's just me. Probably wouldn't need one in July or December because of the holidays, and July being July. But I mean, that's just me talking. We'll talk more about that next month, hopefully when everyone's here, and then we can get all of that.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, moving on to public comments. Does anyone have a comment to make to the planning commission this evening? Mr. Draper.
I do. So I've got a few items for you guys. First one is a news article that you guys may have seen. It's from 2 weeks ago. And this is one of hundreds of incidents like this if you do a Google search on this stuff. But the ex-Michigan House Speaker was sentenced to prison in a marijuana bribery scheme. So he was made in charge of the medical marijuana board in Michigan. And it was not just money, it was favors and different things, totaling like $110,000 that he accepted for information that he was giving to marijuana corporations. And that landed him almost 5 years in prison. And it's happening all over the place. Not just Michigan, but it seems to be more of a norm than an exception. Also, this is from the Michigan Municipal League on public hearings. And the part I highlighted there, you know, a public hearing offers citizens an opportunity to be heard and should be viewed as a serious effort on the part of elected officials to secure as much information as possible about a topic before a final decision is made. So we had a public hearing here about expanding the marijuana grow facility by my house onto more land zoned residential. The legality of it was in question. 100% of the people that spoke out were in opposition to it. 100% of the people that wrote letters was in opposition to it. And then the Planning Commission voted unanimously in favor of expanding that marijuana facility, which from the public standpoint, looking at that, it totally violates anything a public hearing is even about. And then when you look at the public corruption things that are going on, I don't think you guys are personally getting bribes or whatever, but it sure looks bad. I mean, it looks dirty when everyone that lives around there says, no, please don't expand the marijuana place. And you're like, there you go ahead and expand it. Doesn't look good. So that being said, I don't know exactly what goes on if someone says, hey, you guys have to vote this way, or whatever, I don't know. There's some fairly obvious symptoms here. So I do have, if you would be interested in whistleblowers. So the top phone number is FBI, Public Corruption Hotline, and they are the ones that really led the thing on this guy in Michigan that just went to prison. And the bottom one is the local field office that also asked, actually, people to call in. Like, if you have suspicions or anything, please call us because it's a serious problem. So that is what I've got for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna make one quick note. I really dislike the fact that the FBI Regional Corruption Hotline for Michigan is in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I object strongly to that. It should be in Grand Rapids. Thank you very much. Good. It's definitely something to think about and look over. Does anyone else have a comment to make this evening?
I do.
Yes, ma'am. Name for the record, please.
Donna Holloway.
Donna Holloway.
And I live down the road. I really don't say a whole lot, but if we're supposed to use our common sense at these meetings, which we try to, all of us, but then others on the committee can do outbursts like just happened. It's unforgivable.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, I'll move on. We have no recommendation to make to the township board this month. We will ensure that hopefully we can get the edited memo before their board meeting on Tuesday. If not, we'll forward this to them as a preliminary, no matter what. So I'm not gonna say recommendation, but forwarding the memo to the township board for their review. If there's no other business before the commission, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Support. Motion by Hopkins, supported by Robertson to adjourn. Any discussion? 1, 2, hearing none. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those in favor, or those opposed, same sign. 3-0, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a safe drive home. They're chopping all the corn, so